AITA for refusing to give up my wedding venue for my sister, even though she got engaged after me. So, I, 28F, got engaged to my fiancé, Matt, 30M, last year after being together for 6 years. We were thrilled and started planning a wedding for September 2025 at this absolutely gorgeous vineyard in our home state. It's the kind of place that books out a year or more in advance, and we managed to snag the date only because someone canceled at the last minute. We put down a large non-refundable deposit and have already started paying off parts of the balance. My younger sister, Emily, 26F, got engaged this past April after dating her now fiancé, Jake, 27M, for about a year. She's always been the golden child of the family, bubbly, charismatic, a bit impulsive, and somehow things always seem to work out in her favor. Don't get me wrong, I love her, but she has a habit of making everything about her. About a month after she got engaged, my mom called me saying Emily wanted to talk about wedding logistics. When we got together, Emily told me she and Jake had fallen in love with the same vineyard and wanted to have their wedding there next spring. I told her that was impossible since the venue was fully booked, and that's literally why Matt and I were waiting until fall. Emily smiled and said, "Oh, I already checked. Your exact date is still open for us if you cancel. It would be perfect timing for us since Jake's parents are moving overseas in the fall, and they really want to be there." I was dumbfounded. I asked if she was seriously suggesting I give up my date and venue for her, and she said, "You can find another place. You've been engaged longer, so it's not like you're in a rush. We'd really appreciate it. It would mean so much to Mom and Dad." I flat out said no. I told her it wasn't fair to ask that. We'd already invested money, and that she could pick literally any other venue or date. She got teary and said I was being selfish. Later, my mom called, saying she understood where Emily was coming from. She said that since I had more time to plan, it would make sense to postpone my wedding a few months so my sister could have hers first. I reminded her about the deposit and payments we've already made, but Mom said she and Dad could help me rebook somewhere else. When I asked if that meant they'd reimburse the money we'd lose, she said, "Well, we can't afford that, but family should come before money." Matt was furious when he heard this. He told me under no circumstances were we changing our date. My dad actually called later and apologized for my mom's behavior, saying he thought Emily was being unreasonable. But then the family group chat blew up when Emily told everyone I was gatekeeping the venue and making her dream wedding impossible. Suddenly, cousins, aunts, and even my grandma started messaging me, saying I should let her have it since she's younger and it's only one date. My grandma even said that since I'm the older sister, I should set an example of generosity. It's gotten ugly. Emily hasn't spoken to me directly since, but she's been posting vague stuff on social media about selfish people who care more about money than love. My mom keeps trying to mediate, but every mediation involves me compromising. Her latest idea was that we both have our weddings at the same venue on different days of the same weekend, but that's absurd. I'd have to share decorations, vendors, and potentially even guests who'd have to attend 2 weddings in 2 days. Here's where it gets more complicated. Last weekend, Matt and I went to visit my parents for dinner. Emily and Jake happened to be there. Halfway through the meal, Emily started crying again, saying how she can't find any other venue she likes and how she feels like I'm punishing her for being engaged later. Jake chimed in, saying he doesn't understand why we can't just be flexible. I calmly told him again that I'm not changing my date. That's when my mom slammed her fork down and said, "You're tearing this family apart over a piece of paper and a party." I told her this isn't about a party. It's about boundaries and respect. Now, the family group chat has split in 2. Half of them think Emily's being ridiculous. The other half think I'm being cold and uncompromising. My aunt even texted me privately, saying that Emily has always been jealous of me, and this is her way of taking something from me. Things reached a breaking point yesterday. Emily called me, the first time she's spoken to me in weeks, and said, "You've made your point. I hope you're happy that I'll never get to have my dream wedding." I told her she's free to have her dream wedding, just not at the exact same venue and date that I paid for. She hung up on me. Now, I'm feeling torn. On one hand, I know logically that I'm in the right. I booked it first, paid for it, and have every right to keep it. On the other hand, my family is making me feel like I've committed some massive betrayal. Matt says we shouldn't cave to emotional manipulation, but seeing my mom so upset is eating at me. To make matters worse, my parents have now said they won't contribute financially to our wedding until things cool down. That contribution was supposed to cover part of the catering. Matt says we'll find another way, but it feels like everything has turned into a war. A part of me wonders if it's worth it to just let Emily have the venue so the family stops fighting, but then another part of me feels like that's exactly what she's counting on. She's always gotten her way because she cries and everyone gives in. I don't want to start my marriage by giving up something that's ours just to make my sister happy. I love my family, but I also love Matt and what we've worked for. It's not just a date or a vineyard. It's something we chose together that represents the start of our life. So now I'm stuck wondering, am I the asshole for refusing to give up my wedding venue for my sister, even if it means causing family drama? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my house, even though I technically have a space. So I, 32F, bought my first house about 2 years ago after years of saving. It's a modest 3-bedroom home in a quiet suburb. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked 2 jobs in my 20s to build a down payment, and when I finally signed the papers, it felt like the biggest accomplishment of my life. My older sister, Hannah, 37F, has always been the more impulsive one. She married young, had 3 kids, 10M, 8F, and 5F, and divorced her husband last year. He wasn't a great partner. He cheated, left her with a ton of debt, and refused to pay consistent child support. I helped her through that time emotionally and even gave her some money when things got really rough. Hannah's been renting a small 2-bedroom apartment since the divorce, but she recently got notice that her rent is increasing by nearly 40%. She called me crying, saying there was no way she could afford it and that she'd been denied for several cheaper apartments because of her credit score. Then she asked if she and the kids could move in with me just for a few months until she could get back on her feet. Here's where things get complicated. I do technically have space, a master bedroom for me, a guest room, and a small home office. But I work from home full-time as a data analyst, and that office isn't just a desk and a laptop. I have 2 monitors, shelves of work materials, and it's where I spend 8 to 9 hours a day. Without that room, I can't do my job comfortably or privately. I told Hannah I need to think about it. That night, I imagined what it would be like. 3 kids running around while I'm trying to take calls, Hannah using my kitchen, toys everywhere, no privacy. I love my nieces and nephew, but I also love my peace and my routine. Still, the guilt was eating at me. The next day, I called Hannah and told her I couldn't let them move in permanently, but I could offer to let them stay for 2 weeks while she figured out her next steps. I even offered to help her look for local resources, single-parent housing programs, church assistance, or even co-signer options. She went quiet, then started crying. She said she couldn't believe I'd turned my back on family when she needed me most. She reminded me that she babysat me when we were kids, that I used to sleep in her room when I was scared, and that family means being there when things get hard. I felt like the worst person in the world. A few hours later, my mom called. Hannah had told her everything, and Mom was furious. She said Hannah had always been there for me, and that since I lived alone in a big house, it was selfish not to share. I tried explaining that it wasn't about space, it was about boundaries, my job, and my mental health, but she didn't want to hear it. She said she raised us to look out for each other, not hide behind excuses. Over the next few days, the family group chat blew up. My aunt chimed in that kids are only little once, and that I'd regret not helping more. My cousin, who's close to me, said she understood my point, but maybe I could compromise. Let them have the guest room and use the office for sleeping temporarily. That suggestion made me realize something. Even if it started as temporary, it would almost certainly become indefinite. when Hannah moved into her apartment after the divorce. It was supposed to be a 6-month arrangement with her ex helping with rent. He didn't. Now she's been there over a year, and the pattern is repeating. I know if I let her move in, she'd stay far longer than a few months. I'd be the one footing the bills, cooking extra meals, cleaning up after 4 more people, and sacrificing my peace of mind. Last week, she called again, calmer this time, but the conversation still left me uneasy. She said she understood I didn't want to raise her kids for her, but she reminded me she'd do it for me if the roles were reversed. I want to believe that, but part of me doubts it. Hannah has never been great with boundaries or money. I ended up telling her no again. I repeated my offer for short-term help and resource hunting, but she hung up mid-sentence. I haven't heard from her since. Mom keeps leaving guilt-trippy voicemails about how money changes people and how family should come before convenience. My dad, who's divorced from Mom, texted me quietly to say he thinks I did the right thing and that enabling Hannah won't help her learn to stand on her own. Now, every time I sit in my quiet house, I feel this mix of relief and guilt. Relief because I know my home is still my safe space, but guilt because my sister and her kids are in a tough situation. I saw on social media that they're currently staying with a friend of hers who generously opened her doors, which made me feel even worse. Here's another piece that might change how people see it. Last Christmas, Hannah promised the kids that Annie's house would be their next home because she has plenty of space. I had no idea she'd said that until my nephew mentioned it. That means she might have been assuming I'd say yes all along, even before asking. I don't hate my sister. I love her. But I also worked incredibly hard to build a stable, quiet life after years of chaos. Roommates, bad landlords, constant noise. The thought of going back to that, even temporarily, fills me with anxiety. My therapist says it's okay to have boundaries, and that saying no doesn't make me cruel, but the weight of family judgment is heavy. Every family gathering used to feel warm. Now it feels tense. My mom won't talk to me directly. My aunt makes passive-aggressive comments, and my sister won't return texts. My dad told me to ride it out, and that eventually everyone will calm down, but I'm not so sure. I feel like I've become the villain in everyone's story for simply wanting to protect the peace I worked for. So now I'm sitting here wondering if I really am the jerk for not letting them stay. Could I have handled it differently? Should I have offered more? Maybe let the kids stay weekends so they wouldn't have to move around as much? Or am I right that family love doesn't mean sacrificing your home and sanity whenever someone else's life falls apart? AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in, even though I could technically make room? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée wear my late mother's wedding dress, even though it's been a family tradition for decades? So, for context, I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I come from a family where sentimentality runs deep. My mom passed away about 7 years ago after a long illness. She was one of those people who somehow held the family together. Christmas dinners, birthday parties, mediating fights, everything. Losing her was hard on all of us, but especially for me, because I was the one who took care of her during the last few years of her life. Now, my mom's wedding dress is a bit of a legend in our family. It was hand-sewn by my grandmother in the 1970s. Lace, pearls, the whole vintage romantic thing. And every daughter who got married wore it. My mom wore it, her 2 sisters wore it, and even one of my cousins who got married abroad shipped it in a special box just to have the tradition. When Mom passed, the dress came to me. It wasn't an official inheritance, but everyone sort of assumed I'd keep it safe because I was closest to her. Fast forward to last month. My younger brother, Jake, 29, is getting married to his fiancée, Sarah, 27. I genuinely like Sarah. She's kind, funny, and clearly loves Jake. She's been in our lives for almost 5 years, and while she's never met my mom, she's always been curious about family traditions and stories. A few weeks ago, she called me out of the blue and said she had something really special to ask. We met for coffee, and she asked, very sweetly at first, if she could wear my mom's wedding dress at their ceremony. She said she'd been thinking about it for a while, and that since Jake can't connect to his mom through the wedding, she wanted to honor her by wearing the dress. She even offered to pay for alterations and professional cleaning. I'll admit I was caught off guard. I told her I appreciated the sentiment, but didn't think it was appropriate. My mom's dress was worn by women in the family, not people marrying into it. Sarah looked taken aback and said she thought since she was becoming part of the family, it made sense. I told her it wasn't just a family dress. It was my mom's personal item, and I wasn't comfortable with anyone else wearing it. She tried to reason that traditions evolve, and that my mom would probably be happy to see it continue to be part of a celebration of love. I told her I needed to think about it. Later that day, I called my aunt, who wore the dress back in the 90s, to ask her opinion. She was adamantly against it and said, "That dress has our bloodline in it. It's not a costume." That might sound dramatic, but I understood what she meant. It's something deeply sentimental, not just a pretty gown. When I told Sarah no, she didn't take it well. She said she felt rejected by the family and that she just wanted to do something meaningful for Jake. She even teared up, saying she thought it would bring everyone together and make the day more emotional. I stayed firm but polite, explaining that I could lend her a piece of mom's jewelry instead, something beautiful but less intimate. She declined, saying it wasn't the same. Jake called me 2 days later, clearly angry. He said I'd made Sarah cry and accused me of gatekeeping mom's memory. He said since I wasn't married and probably wouldn't be using the dress anytime soon, it was selfish to let it rot in a closet. That one hurt. He said mom would have wanted Sarah to feel welcome and that refusing her was punishing him for moving on. We ended up shouting at each other. I told him I wasn't keeping the dress for vanity or control. It was about respect. I told him Sarah marrying into the family didn't give her automatic rights to something that was passed down through the women of our bloodline. He hung up on me. Now it's turned into a full family drama. My aunt and cousin are on my side, saying it's a sacred tradition and that Sarah asking was out of line. But my dad, who's usually quiet in family matters, said maybe I'm being too sentimental. He said mom always believed in love being the heart of family, and that I might be holding on to grief instead of letting others share in her memory. That one stung because it's probably a little true. Jake and Sarah have since announced that she's found a different dress that actually feels more like me, but they've both been distant. My brother didn't invite me to the tasting for the wedding menu, which is weird because I've always been included in things like that. My cousin told me Sarah made a few comments about how some people just can't let go of the past. Part of me feels guilty, like maybe I was too possessive. But another part feels angry, like my brother doesn't understand what that dress meant to mom, or to me. I sat with her in the hospital while she held my hand and said, "Keep it safe for the next generation." She didn't specify who, but I took that seriously. Here's the thing that keeps replaying in my head. If Sarah had married into a family where there was a wedding ring tradition, or a quilt, or even a photo album, I doubt she'd insist on claiming it for herself. It's not about excluding her, it's about boundaries. It's about understanding that some things carry more weight than they appear to. Still, I can't shake the guilt. I've seen the way my brother looks at her, like she's his whole world. I didn't mean to cause tension before their wedding, but now it feels like there's this invisible line drawn between us. He's my only sibling, and I hate that this has become such a wedge. I even considered offering her the dress for a photo. Not to wear during the ceremony, just a private tribute shot, but my aunt told me not to cave. Now the wedding is next month, and I don't know where we stand. Part of me wants to smooth things over, but part of me feels like I've already done enough emotional compromising. I can't rewrite what the dress means just to make other people comfortable. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée wear my late mom's wedding dress, even if it might have brought everyone together.